The news didn't break like a whisper on a back page. It didn't creep quietly into football circles as a rumor. No, it exploded, tearing across timelines and front pages with the force of a stadium roar. Christian Eriksen signs with VfL Wolfsburg. For fans across Europe, the words hardly felt real. This wasn't a transfer window sideshow. This was a headline dripping in drama, history, and heart. The Danish Maestro, whose name has been written in both tragedy and triumph over the past decade, was leaving Manchester United and arriving in Germany, not to Bayern, not to Dortmund, not even to Leipzig. Wolfsburg, a club respected, yes, but hardly seen as a destination for fallen giants seeking redemption, and that was what made it so shocking, because Eriksen isn't just another footballer moving clubs. He is a symbol, a man who has lived through the unthinkable, who collapsed under the floodlights of Euro 2020 with the world watching, who clawed his way back from death itself to return to the pitch. His every step since that day has carried weight. His every touch has been heavy with meaning. And now, that story had taken another twist, one that split the footballing world in two. In Copenhagen, fans were stunned. Social media flooded with disbelief. Wolfsburg? Why? One fan tweeted, the question echoing in dozens of languages. He deserves a Champions League club, wrote another. Some, more optimistic, declared, this is perfect. Less pressure, more freedom. Eriksen will shine again. The Danish press went wild. Headlines filled papers and airwaves. BT. Eriksen to Wolfsburg. Fairy tale or failure? Extra bladet. Danish captain takes a shocking turn. At Manchester United, the reaction was more complicated. Many fans, frustrated with Eriksen's decline in form last season, shrugged. He's finished, some claimed. Others, more sentimental, admitted, he gave us his heart. Let him write his final chapter in peace. But in Wolfsburg, the city erupted. This wasn't just a signing. It was a resurrection. Fans flooded social media with green and white hearts. Ticket sales spiked within hours. Outside the Volkswagen Arena, a small group of ultras gathered spontaneously, chanting his name into the chilly night air. For them, this wasn't business. It was destiny. But how did it happen? Behind the scenes, whispers revealed a dramatic story. Manchester United, caught between their chaotic rebuild and pressure to offload wages, quietly opened the door for Eriksen's departure. Clubs in Turkey and the United States expressed interest, dangling lucrative deals. Even Saudi Arabia hovered, offering money that could have made Eriksen one of the highest-paid midfielders in the world. But he said no. Why? Because money has never been Eriksen's motivation. Survival changes you. When you've had your heart restart on the pitch, when you've been given a second chance at life itself, what drives you isn't a paycheck. It's meaning. It's purpose. And Wolfsburg offered him both, sources close to the negotiations claimed. That manager Niko Kovac promised Eriksen a central role, not as a squad rotation piece, but as the heartbeat of the midfield. The club pitched him not as an aging star fading into obscurity, but as the leader of a young squad desperate for experience, vision, and a steady hand. And Eriksen bought INT the press conference, wearing Wolfsburg green for the first time. He spoke softly but firmly. I've been through many journeys in football. Some beautiful, some difficult. But this is the start of something new. I want to play. I want to lead. And I want to win. The room erupted with applause. Cameras clicked furiously. For Wolfsburg fans, it was a dream they never thought they'd live to see. For neutrals, it was a gamble they couldn't look away from. But not everyone was convinced. Pundits across Europe tore into the move with ferocity. On Sky Sports, one analyst sneered. Eriksen to Wolfsburg? This isn't a fairy tale. This is desperation. He's chasing minutes because top clubs don't trust his body anymore. On ESPN, a commentator countered, no, this is genius. Wolfsburg, get a leader, a free kick specialist, a man who can slow down the chaos of modern football with one pass. Mark my words, Eriksen will light up the Bundesliga. The divide was sharp. The stakes were higher, and that's where the twist began to unfold, because whispers soon leaked that Wolfsburg wasn't the only club in the race. Bayern Munich, always circling talent in their backyard, had quietly inquired. Borussia Dortmund, too, considered him as a depth option, but both backed out, citing fitness concerns. That left Wolfsburg with a clear path, but also with all the risk. If Eriksen flourished, they'd be hailed as visionaries. If he failed, they'd be mocked as fools. The Bundesliga media latched onto the drama instantly. One German newspaper headline summed it up perfectly. Eriksen, Wolfsburg's gamble with a legend. Inside the Wolfsburg dressing room, the reactions were mixed but electric. Young players like Rydel Baku and Lucas Mecca were in awe, whispering about finally playing alongside a man they grew up watching. But others, privately, were nervous. If he's the star now, where does that leave us? One player reportedly muttered to a teammate, and in training, all eyes were glued to him. His first touch on the ball, his first pass, his first sprint. Every move was dissected. Coaches noted his calm, his intelligence, his ability to dictate tempo even without breaking a sweat. But they also noticed something else, the heaviness in his legs when runs dragged on, the pauses between bursts of energy. It was a reminder that the fairy tale still had shadows. Fans, though, didn't care. They lined up outside the club shop, snapping up jerseys with Eriksen 21 printed across the back. Social media swarmed with memes and edits. Eriksen standing over free kicks in Wolfsburg green. Eriksen lifting a potential Bundesliga trophy. Eriksen resurrecting the club's glory days. The hype was unstoppable. The skepticism, equally unrelenting. And looming over it all was the question nobody could answer. Was this truly a revival, or the start of a slow, painful ending? The climax of Chapter 1 came not in a press room, not on social media, but on the pitch. Wolfsburg's preseason friendly against Ajax drew global attention. Cameras from Denmark, Germany, England, everyone was there. And when Eriksen jogged out in his new colors, the stadium rose to its feet in a thunderous ovation. For 20 minutes, he played with ease. A flick here, a clever pass there. It felt like the old Eriksen, the maestro, the magician. But then, in the 25th minute, he was clattered by a sliding tackle. He stayed down. The crowd went silent. Cameras zoomed in. Memories of Euro 2020 flooded. Back in a collective wave of fear, physios sprinted on. The world held its breath. And then, he stood. Slowly, but surely. He waved to the fans, signaled he was fine, and resumed play. The ovation was deafening. Tears filled eyes in the stands. It was more than a moment. It was a message. Christian Eriksen wasn't done yet. Was Wolfsburg about to witness the rebirth of a legend? Or had they pinned their hopes, and millions, on a dream too fragile to last? The stage was set. The drama was alive. And the football world couldn't look away. The days after Christian Eriksen's unveiling at Wolfsburg felt like living inside a storm. Headlines refused to die. Podcasts refused to change topics. And every sports bar conversation in Germany, Denmark, and England began with the same question. Had Wolfsburg pulled off a masterstroke, or signed up for heartbreak? ESPN ran a feature titled, Wolfsburg's Gamble with a Legend. Sky Germany countered with, Eriksen the Maestro, Bundesliga's dark horse awakens. The polarization was electric. For every expert who scoffed, another praised. For every fan who doubted, another believed. And Eriksen? He said nothing. He trained. He played. He carried himself with the same quiet dignity that had defined his entire career. But silence, in football, often makes the noise louder. Inside the Wolfsburg locker room, the atmosphere was tense but charged. Young players watched Eriksen like disciples, studying his movement, his touches, the way he spoke during drills. For them, this wasn't just another teammate. This was Christian Eriksen, the man they had once controlled on FIFA, now standing beside them on the training pitch. But not everyone was sold. A few veterans grumbled behind closed doors. If everything runs through him, where do we fit? One murmured to a journalist off record. Niko Kovac, aware of the whispers, addressed it directly in a team meeting. Listen, Eriksen isn't here to take your place. He's here to make you better. He's the anchor, you're the sails. If we pull together, no one can stop us. The room applauded, but beneath the claps, doubt lingered. Then came the first true test. A Bundesliga clash against RB Leipzig, one of the league's fiercest rising powers. The match was billed as Eriksen's real debut, the night the hype met reality. Tickets sold out in hours. TV ratings projected record numbers. The build-up was suffocating. On German talk shows, analysts sparred. Point one declared, Leipzig will eat him alive. He can't handle the tempo anymore. Another retorted, his brain is faster than any legs. Watch him dictate. By kickoff, the stadium buzzed with anticipation. Fans held banners. In Eriksen we trust, and revival starts tonight. The whistle blew, and the drama unfolded. For the first 20 minutes, Wolfsburg struggled. Leipzig pressed high, suffocating Eriksen, forcing him into awkward passes. Twitter exploded. $90K a week for this? Critics grinned, but then in the 33rd minute, the moment arrived. Leipzig lost the ball in midfield. Eriksen, hovering in space, received it on his left foot. One glance up, one perfect swing, and the ball arced like poetry over defenders, landing at the feet of Lucas Mecca, who slotted it home. The stadium erupted. Commentators screamed, "Eriksen magic! Wolfsburg lead!" In that single moment, the noise flipped. The critics fell silent. The believers roared. But football rarely writes fairy tales without shadows. In the 70th minute, Eriksen misjudged a pass, gifting Leipzig a counterattack that ended in a goal. The cameras zoomed in on his face as he held his head in his hands. Twitter roared again. Too slow. Too risky. And then came the climax. 0.85th minute. Scores level. Wolfsburg won a free kick just outside the box. The crowd began to chant, louder and louder. Eriksen! 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 He stepped up. The ball placed. The wall set. Silence fell. The whistle blew. His right foot curled through the ball, sending it spinning over the wall, dipping beneath the crossbar, smashing into the net. Goal. The stadium exploded. Teammates mobbed him. Fans cried. Commentators lost their voices. He's back. The Maestro is back. Wolfsburg won 2-1. And just like that, Christian Eriksen had silenced doubts, at least for one night. The aftermath was chaos. German papers hailed him as der Dirigent, the conductor. Danish media called it a fairy tale reborn. Social media flooded with clips of the free kick, replayed millions of times. Jerseys sold out overnight. But skeptics still whispered. One game, they said. Let's see him in December. Let's see him in May. Inside Wolfsburg, though, belief blossomed. Teammates who once doubted now looked at Eriksen with fire in their eyes. Manager Kovac hugged him after the game, whispering, "This is why you're here." And in Manchester, reporters asked Erik ten Hag about letting Eriksen go. He paused, gave a diplomatic smile, and said only, "Sometimes players find the right place at the right time." The implication was clear. Manchester United might have lost a fading star, but Wolfsburg had found a leader reborn. The chapter closed on a city transformed. Wolfsburg, once dismissed as a mid-table afterthought, now dared to dream. Fans spoke of Champions League nights, of title challenges, of rewriting history. And at the center of it all stood Christian Eriksen, survivor, playmaker, leader. A man carrying the weight of expectations, of doubters, of destiny. But as the lights dimmed on the Volkswagen Arena that night, one question still echoed louder than the cheers, louder than the critics, louder than the dreams. Was this the beginning of a Wolfsburg revolution, or just the start of another beautiful, fleeting illusion?